I want to tell you all to be very introspective. I think I have a video that talks about introspection and spending time with yourself and really listening to your thinking, reflecting on your day, and asking yourself why you may or may not have made the decisions that you made. So in 2019, I started my journey as a New York City public school teacher. And my first group of students was second graders. I did not get to be their in-person educator for an entire 10-month school year because COVID happened. So in the few months, September to March, that I worked as a second grade teacher in a public school in Brooklyn, I was learning, classroom management. And one of our classroom norms to ensure that instruction was not interrupted was that we required the students to make silent signals if they needed to go to the bathroom, or if they needed stationery supplies, or if they had a question, so that if the teacher was eliciting a response from the students and someone raised their hand for the bathroom, it wouldn't be mistaken for, okay, you're ready to answer the question, right? We wanted to have the students take independence and recognize the sanctity of instruction in the classroom. Because it was a co-taught classroom, one of us would be responsible for giving a thumbs up or wait, not right now, to the students, so that, we can just remain on task for the most important thing happening in the lesson, which is the instruction. There were students in my classroom at that time that were either immigrant students, English language learners, or students who were children of immigrants. So they were American children, but the primary language spoken in their home is not English. So there were two students who didn't align themselves with those silent rules. And so if a student was speaking, or the teacher was charting something a student was saying, or we were talking, they would just leave their seats and walk right up to the front of the class and say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" One of them was a student. She was Middle Eastern, so she wore her religious garment, her hijab. She was smaller than was typical for her age, and she spoke very softly, and she was very petite, and she had this lovely thick black hair that flowed down her back under her hijab, and she was very quiet, and she would just leave her seat and just walk toward me and just ask, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And so I said to her, "Yes, if you need to go to the bathroom, you raise your hand," right? We had a bathroom signal, maybe maybe it was teeth or something. I can't remember. We've changed it so many times over the years. But, the students would put the signal up and they would go to the bathroom. And I would remind her of that. And sure enough, a couple of days would pass. And then one day, again, she would just walk and just come to the front of the class and say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And I would just say, you need to, I would say her name and say, "You need to use the silent signal. So go back to your seat. Is it an emergency? No? Okay, go back to your seat and try it." There was another student who did the same thing. And he was this very handsome Haitian American student. And he was significantly taller than his peers. And so he looked older, and he would do the same thing, right? He was of a fuller build. And he had the same behavior. He would walk up to me in the middle of class and just say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And I said, you cannot, we have a silent signal that we use. You have to go back to your seat and raise the signal. That is not the way we go to the bathroom. And the kids would say, "You raise a hand," and they would say his name. And, they were confused at the two of them. And I would redirect these two students in two very different ways. And they were both 7-year-olds. And I did not notice until one day, right? They just both demonstrated that behavior, one after the other. So the young lady came, and the young student, she came toward me and she asked, and I bent over to her and I said, "You have to use the silent signal, right, for the bathroom. You cannot leave your seat without permission. Go." And then within 5 minutes, this young man came toward me and I said, "Go sit down." It was the second time, but I was having a completely different reaction to him. And when I said that and he sat down, it just came to me. It's, people in the Bible, there's a reference of David, came to himself. Was it David? Who just came to himself, that just was like, "What am I doing?" Or was it the prodigal son? Someone's not reading their Bible. that just kind of spoke to themselves. Like you just came to your own realization. And in the moment that I said that to him, it just came to me like, you are having a very different reaction to the same behavior in two students. Like, you need to check yourself. That's what I was telling my own self. And I had to just pause and say, oh my God, I most certainly am. And there's a combination of things at play, right? There's gender privilege, or the idea that we have to be very gentle with girls. We see it in videos online where people make a parody of it, and they say, when my daughter falls, and you see the dad running over and sweeping her up and dusting off her knee, and and consoling her, and then they say, when my son falls, and the dad's like, get up, let's go, so there's that was at play, most definitely. And then there was also size, right? Because we almost have a default reaction to treat younger, smaller children gentler. And even though he was also 7 years old, he didn't look 7. He didn't present a 7. So I was comfortable being very tough and very firm with him. And quite possibly, other biases aligned with skin color and race that force us often to adultify children that look differently, that children with darker skin. There's research, facts, experiences that say that we tend to see children of certain ethnic groups as tougher and stronger, and then we interact with children of different groups, right? This was a very white presenting Middle Eastern child, and I just kind of like went in the back of the class, and I just sat there to be like with my son. I'm like, oh my God, like it's like I replayed all the times I redirected those two children in my mind, and I thought, oh my God, whew, okay, look at what I'm doing. I was definitely having a different reaction to both of them for the same behavior, right? And so that's why if we are not taking time out of our day to really stop and ask the question to ourselves, how was my day? I'm talking to myself all the time. If you work with me, my colleagues will be, walking by the classroom, and they're like, Miss Harrigan, you someone's in there with you? I'm like, no, it's just me talking to myself, because I think out loud. That's how I like to refer to it, thinking out loud. But I often try to replay my day. And as I replay my day in my mind, I try to evaluate my feelings, like what part of today was stressful, what part of today did I feel really great, what part of today was peaceful, what part of today, made me mad. And then I try to think about, what was it? Like, why did I have that emotional reaction? Why was I feeling anxious in that meeting? Why was I not happy when this person walked into the room? Like, I need to evaluate why I'm feeling the way I am, so that I can either be very inflective about something I have to adjust, or be mindful about something in my environment I need to acknowledge, right? Or make decisions about. Because if you just continue around just doing things and not learning and growing, people are going to be looking at you crazy, because everyone's going to start to see things in your behavior that you don't notice. And so I'm asking you to take time in your day to evaluate how you feel. Don't just ignore your feelings and the tension in your body, and you had a moment where you were stressed or unhappy, and you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to bring it up. You need to find a time when you can address that, because it's going to snowball. It could worsen, and there could be a myriad of other negative effects that it has. So that was my classroom story about my own bias or my own behavior that was so different, and it came to me, right? Before someone had to say, I noticed this about you, I recognize it in myself. So our purpose on the earth is to, flourish and to grow and to have an impact on others that is positive and that creates a community and creates safety and purposeful experiences. So growth is part of that. And if we really want to be our best selves, we have to take some time to look inside. So I hope that this was meaningful to you. If you learned anything or you have any questions, be sure to put it in the comments. Thank you for staying if you made it all the way to the end, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.